In 1513, a man sat alone in a cold farmhouse outside Florence. He had been tortured, exiled, and stripped of everything. And yet in that darkness, he wrote a book so dangerous that the Pope tried to suppress it, kings feared it, and 5 centuries later it still makes people uncomfortable. His name was Niccolò Machiavelli, and his forbidden wisdom reveals how power actually works. Not how we wish it worked, not how our teachers told us it worked, but how it really, truly operates behind closed doors. Power, truth, fear. Today, we are going to unlock 5 principles from the prince that they deliberately kept out of your education. 5 ideas that offend every moral sensibility you were raised with. But here is the thing. These principles do not describe how the world should be. They describe how the world already is. And by the end of this video, you will never see power, politics, or even your own relationships the same way again. Everyone sees what you appear to be. Few experience what you really are. So let us begin. The exiled genius. Before we dive into the forbidden principles, you need to understand the man behind them. Because Machiavelli was not some armchair philosopher writing from a comfortable study. He was a diplomat, a political advisor, a man who had walked the corridors of power for 14 years. He had negotiated with popes, kings, and warlords. He had seen alliances formed and broken. He had watched men rise to glory and fall to ruin. He understood power because he had both wielded it and lost it. In 1512, the Medici family returned to Florence and Machiavelli was arrested. He was hung from his arms and tortured for weeks. They accused him of conspiracy. When they finally released him, he was a broken man with nothing left. Nothing. But exile gave him something extraordinary: distance, clarity, the freedom to write what he truly believed without caring about consequences. I have found among my possessions nothing I hold more dear than the knowledge of the actions of great men. And from that pain, he produced the most honest book about power ever written. But the first principle he revealed is the one that disturbs people the most: fear over love. Here is the first forbidden principle. Machiavelli wrote that if a leader must choose between being feared and being loved, it is far safer to be feared than loved. Now, before you recoil, think about this honestly. Think about the nicest boss you ever had, the one who let everything slide, who never confronted anyone, who wanted everyone to like them. What happened? People took advantage. Deadlines were missed. Respect evaporated. Kindness, weakness. Now think about the strict one, the one who held standards, the one people were slightly afraid to disappoint. That team performed, did it not? Machiavelli observed that love is held together by a chain of obligation, which, because men are wretched, is broken at every opportunity. But fear is maintained by a dread of punishment that never fails. Love is conditional, fear is reliable. This does not mean cruelty. Machiavelli was explicit about this, as he warned. A prince should make himself feared in such a way that, if he does not gain love, he at least avoids hatred. The key is respect without resentment. If Machiavelli's insight on fear is resonating with you right now, hit like and subscribe because we are just getting started. Because the next principle is even more unsettling. Fortune's gamble. The second forbidden principle is about fortune itself. Machiavelli believed that fortune controls roughly half of our lives, but here is where it gets interesting. Fortune favors the bold. He compared fortune to a raging river. When it floods, everyone runs. It destroys fields, uproots trees, sweeps away buildings. Everyone is helpless. But before the flood, those who built dams and levees survive. The cautious man waits for the perfect moment, and it never comes. The bold man acts while others hesitate, and fortune rewards him. Think about your own life. How many opportunities did you miss because you were waiting for certainty? How many times did someone less talented, less prepared, succeed simply because they moved first? Machiavelli went even further with a statement that shocked his contemporaries. Fortune is a woman, and it is necessary to beat her and wrestle with her. She lets herself be won by the bold rather than by those who act coldly. Harsh language, brutal imagery, but the principle underneath is undeniable. Hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever will. Hesitation. And this leads us to the most controversial principle of all: ends and means. The third principle is the one that got Machiavelli's book banned by the Catholic Church for centuries. The ends justify the means. Now your teachers taught you this was evil. They told you this was the philosophy of tyrants and monsters. But Machiavelli was not writing for tyrants. He was writing for survivors. He was writing for man trying to unite a fractured Italy while foreign armies tore it apart. When the alternative is the destruction of everything you love, the rules change. Consider this: a doctor lies to a patient to keep them calm before life-saving surgery. A mother deceives her child to protect them from a truth they cannot yet handle. A leader makes an impossible choice to save thousands. Morality versus survival. Are these people evil, or are they recognizing something uncomfortable? That rigid moral purity is a luxury that collapses the moment real stakes appear. Machiavelli understood that in politics, in business, in life, the person who refuses to get their hands dirty does not stay clean. The way men live is so far removed from the way they ought to live, that anyone who abandons what is for what should be pursues his downfall rather than his preservation. That passage alone should be required reading, but what comes next reveals why most people fail at power entirely. The mask of virtue. The fourth forbidden principle is perhaps the most practical and the most unsettling. Machiavelli argued that a leader must master the art of appearances. Appearances. He did not say be virtuous, he said appear virtuous. There is a massive difference. Everyone sees what you appear to be, but few experience what you really are. Look around you. The most successful people you know are masters of perception. The colleague who always seems confident even when they are terrified inside. The negotiator who appears calm while their heart is racing. The leader who projects certainty when they are drowning in doubt. Machiavelli listed the 5 qualities a prince must appear to have: mercy, faithfulness, humanity, integrity, and religious devotion. But he added something devastating. It is not necessary for a prince to have all the above-mentioned qualities, but it is very necessary to appear to have them. Appear merciful, appear faithful. This is not about being fake. This is about understanding that perception shapes reality more than truth ever will. The person who controls the narrative controls the outcome. And speaking of controlling outcomes, Machiavelli's 5th principle explains why all of this works so perfectly. Human nature. The 5th and final forbidden principle is the foundation beneath all the others, and it is the one people refuse to accept. Human beings are fundamentally selfish. Machiavelli did not say this to be cynical. He said it because he had spent decades observing human behavior at the highest levels of power. Men are so simple and so obedient to present necessities that he who deceives will always find those who allow themselves to be deceived. Think about it. How many times has someone promised you loyalty and then vanished the moment it became inconvenient? How many friendships survived only as long as they were useful? People do not act according to their words, but according to their interests. This sounds dark, it sounds pessimistic, but Machiavelli would argue it is the most liberating truth you will ever hear. Self-interest drives all, because once you stop expecting people to act against their own nature, you stop being disappointed. You stop being surprised when allies betray you. You stop building plans on foundations of blind trust. Instead, you build systems that account for human nature. You align your interests with others so loyalty becomes profitable, not sacrificial. But this raises an uncomfortable question. Power's price. Now here is the part no one talks about. Machiavelli understood these principles. He mastered them intellectually. And yet he died in poverty, exile, and obscurity. The man who wrote the definitive guide to gaining and keeping power could not save himself. Is that not the ultimate irony? Knowledge without action. But maybe that is the deepest lesson of all. Knowledge of power is not the same as the will to use it. Machiavelli was an observer, a philosopher, a writer. He could see the mechanics of power with surgical precision, but could not bring himself to be the ruthless prince he described. There is no avoiding war. It can only be postponed to the advantage of others. And that tension, that gap between knowing and doing, is where most of us live. We read about success, watch videos about discipline, consume wisdom endlessly. But when the moment comes to act boldly, to make the hard choice, to embrace discomfort, we freeze. Frozen. The bridge between knowing and becoming is built with uncomfortable action. And that brings us to the most important question of all. The dark mirror. So now you know the 5 forbidden principles: fear over love, fortune favors the bold, the ends can justify the means, master appearances, and human nature is selfish. 1. Fear over love. 2. Fortune favors the bold. 3. The ends justify the means. 4. Master appearances. 5. Human nature is selfish. These ideas make us uncomfortable because they hold up a dark mirror to the world. They show us that the gap between how things should be and how things are is enormous. The truth does not need your approval to be true. But here is what separates the wise from the naive. The wise person does not ignore uncomfortable truths, they integrate them. You do not have to become Machiavellian to benefit from Machiavelli. You just have to stop pretending the world operates on the fairy tales you were taught. See people clearly, understand incentives, move boldly when the moment demands it. See clearly, act boldly. Control the narrative before someone else controls it for you. And above all, remember that power without wisdom is tyranny, but wisdom without power is irrelevance. The lion cannot protect himself from traps, and the fox cannot defend himself from wolves. One must therefore be a fox to recognize traps, and a lion to frighten wolves. The choice is yours. Machiavelli did not write The Prince to create villains. He wrote it to strip away illusions, to show that the world runs on power, perception, and self-interest, whether we like it or not. And the person who understands these forces can navigate them without being destroyed. The real question is not whether these principles are moral. The real question is whether you will continue to ignore them while everyone around you uses them instinctively. Wisdom is power. 500 years after his death, Machiavelli's words still cut through every comfortable lie we tell ourselves. That is not the mark of a villain. That is the mark of a truth-teller. If you made it this far, comment "The Prince Awakens" to prove you are among the few who can handle forbidden wisdom. The vault has more. Where the willingness is great, the difficulties cannot be great. The wisdom of the ages is yours. Use it well. If this unlocked something in you, subscribe for more. Share this with someone who needs to hear the truth.